You don't worship the government, and I'm glad you don't. That's a good thing. You don't ever want to worship the government. Never worship the state. You don't eat, sleep, and breathe it. Even though you're a political person, I know that because you're watching me here on I'm Right. You don't eat, sleep, and breathe it. You have a life, job, probably family, whatever you hobbies. You have a life. So I don't want you to eat, sleep, and breathe it. I don't want you to worship. But we do have to acknowledge the communist. He does. His goal is to tear everything down. He eats it, he sleeps it, he breathes it, he lives and dies for it. And because he has been more committed than we have been, because he worships it and we don't, he's been more committed, he's better at it than we are. For now, just hang with me for a minute. We want a savior. Because you don't want to, I don't want to, I'm not pointing fingers, because you don't want to and I don't want to get off work and go knock on doors for a candidate, make a bunch of phone calls. Hey, have you gone out and voted yet? Raise money, donate money, do the basics of politics. You don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I love politics. When I get off work, I want to go home. Eat dinner, hang with the fam, watch a documentary, maybe read a book, have a glass of bourbon. I have my own life too. You have your own life. You don't want to do these things. So what do we want? We want someone to do them. Can someone just handle it for us? Someone come here and handle all this. So what we do is we focus on the presidency. Because what we want is we want a savior to come in and save all of this, fix all this immediately. Can someone fix this? Trump, come fix everything. DeSantis, can you come fix everything? Trump can't fix everything. DeSantis can't fix everything. There's no savior coming, and we're not going to save this country from the top down. We want to, but we're not. We don't put in the work. I'm blaming myself too. I'm not pointing fingers at you. We don't put in the work. We don't. We want it to all just be fixed so we can go back to having this country we love. But the communist has spent decades tearing that country apart. And we are going to have to spend a long time and do a lot better when it comes to the work in order to take it back. What do I mean by that? Well, what was the big story from yesterday? Probably thinking Trump, right? And I'm not denying that was a big story, a seminal moment in America. We talked about it. But there was a critical race in Wisconsin, critical for the future of the presidency, for 2024. You sitting there with your MAGA hat on, maybe your DeSantis 2024 shirt on. I want to win, go Ron, go Trump. Well, we're probably not going to win Pennsylvania because of, well, reasons. Therefore, we have to have Wisconsin. If you don't have Pennsylvania, you better have Wisconsin, and even then you have to win a bunch of other stuff as far as the swing states go. And we may have just lost Wisconsin yesterday. You realize that? Daniel Kelly was going up against this nutball committed communist yesterday. And Daniel Kelly got blown out in Wisconsin. It wasn't close. By 11 points, he got blown out, outspent 14 million to 2 million. So while all of the right, media, candidates, everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the country had something to say about Trump, a critical election that in large part is going to have a say in whether Trump even gets back in the White House or DeSantis gets back in the White House, got completely ignored. What were the stakes yesterday? Well, we didn't ignore it. Scott Pressler came on the show and he explained what the stakes were.
This is the most consequential election of 2023, Jesse. Why is this important? Because the liberals have already indicated that they're going to put their thumbs on the scale. And that means that Wisconsin, which currently has voter ID, we could lose voter ID going into 2024. We could lose proof of residency, which is required to register to vote in the state of Wisconsin. And I'll remind you that a conservative court here in Wisconsin deemed that unmanned drop boxes are illegal, Meaning, if the court flips liberal, you're going to have unmanned drop boxes on every street corner in Green Bay, Eau Claire, Milwaukee, Madison, and it's going to be an arduous uphill battle in order to win Wisconsin in the White House in 2024.
And we got blown out and outspent like you can't even imagine. While everybody was focused on Trump, talking about Trump, we got massacred, making all the Trump stuff probably irrelevant. We don't do the blocking and tackling. It is time to have a hard talk about ourselves. And I understand why, right? You understand why. Look, when we watch football, I say blocking and tackling because it's a football analogy. And especially for the fellas, although this is probably some ladies today too, when you watch a football game, who do you want to be out there? Man, I want to be the quarterback. I want to be that wide receiver. Look how fast he is. Touchdown. That's so cool. Nobody watches a football game and wants to be the 350-pound left tackle kind of lumbering along out there. Guess who oftentimes is the most important player on the field? We don't do the blocking and tackling. We want the flash. We want to run the triple wide receiver reverse halfback pass. We don't block and we don't tackle. We go to these big Trump rallies. We talk about Ron DeSantis as the new savior. We do all these things. And look, that's fine. I don't care. Fly that flag, back your guy. But we can't be bothered with the basics. We can't be bothered with the basics. Therefore, I think I'm about done hearing about the flashy stuff because the flashy stuff ain't going to get it done. How will we save this nation? We won't save it from Washington, D.C. We won't save it from the Oval Office. We will save it beginning in our own communities, your community, my community. We will start by taking back our states. We will start by doing the basics: school boards, county board of supervisors, sheriff, state house, state senate. We will begin the blocking and tackling work because we have to begin to crawl before we can ever run. They have a system in place that allows them to do these things because they put in the work. It's not because of Joe Biden. It's because they've spent decades blocking and tackling the fundamentals. We got outraised 14-2, 14 million to 2. And our leadership in this country is so pathetic and inept. The leader of the RNC actually went on television and blamed abortion.
But I will say something else. When you're losing by 10 points, there is a messaging issue, and abortion is still an issue. And we can't allow the Democrats to define Republicans and put millions of dollars up in lies and have it go unanswered, because the lies become the truth if they go unanswered. We have to put the Democrats on the defense on this issue, talk about the fact that they support gender selection abortions and due date abortions. It was an issue in 2022. The RNC raised the flag. I'm a suburban woman. I know this is an issue.
Yeah, boy. Who's in charge of that organization that's supposed to back candidates, help candidates raise money, get out the vote? That organization, what's it called? The RNC. That's it. And who is it? Hold on, let me look. Who is it that heads up that organization? Ronna McDaniel. Says it right here on my paper. Ronna McDaniel. So that person going on television opining as if she's just some bystander, instead should be going on television resigning in disgrace. When a general gets blown out like this, he comes back and hands in his sword and says, I have failed, I apologize, allow me to resign in disgrace. Instead, if we just stop talking about abortion, pathetic. Our party, the GOP, is pathetic at the highest levels. It's embarrassing. I roll my eyes now when I hear anybody talk about the presidency. We can't do the basics. And we're talking about the presidency. We're going to get blown out in 2024. It won't even be close. They could roll out a potato, which is basically what they did last time, and we could roll out George Washington himself, and we'd still get blown out because we can't do the basics. It's embarrassing. So where do we begin? What do we do? Because I do have good news coming. Well, Scott talked about that too.
We need to continue our robust voter registration operation. We are whittling down the Democratic voter registration advantage in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A couple of years ago, during President Obama, it used to be over 1 million, and now Republicans have gotten that down to just nearly 470,000. We are whittling that number. But we need to engage in an all-of-the-above approach to voting if we're going to win the 2024 elections. That means, yes, election day, but also early voting, early in-person voting, mail-in voting, absentee voting, and where legal, ballot harvesting. And I want you guys to think about John Fetterman and Dr. Oz. Going into the first and only debate, 500,000 Pennsylvanians already voted before they heard the debate. And 4 out of 5 of those voters were registered Democrats, meaning that Democrats were sliding into Election Day with fewer people to reach out to, with more time to reach out to them, with more money to reach out to them. Meanwhile, Republicans, we were all waiting to vote on one day, so we had everybody to reach out to with less time and fewer resources. The fact of the matter is Democrats vote for weeks and Republicans vote for 12 hours. If we're going to win, we must engage in voter registration, and we must engage in an all-of-the-above approach to voting.
There we go. Now, I do need to briefly, before we get to the good news, I do need to get to the You Voted for This campaign. You people who've been watching for a while will know this. We believe in something on this show. We believe the right has been far too accommodating, far too coddling, far too nice for so long. In your daily life, whether it's your work, your family, your friends, who's the most aggressive, loud person talking about politics? It's the Democrat, if you have one in your group. Always willing to just start spouting off about it. And what do we do? Because we just want to talk about something else, right? What do? We roll our eyes or we stay silent. Those days have to stop. It is time to make Democrats look in the mirror as often as humanly possible. You remember on this show when I laughed when Chicago bounced Lori Lightfoot? And I came on here and I told everyone, what difference does it make? None of the voters are blaming themselves. They're all going to go to the polls and vote for the same piece of trash, again, just with a different name next time. Well, lo and behold, here he is. There's a new Chicago mayor out there. The new Chicago mayor's name is Brandon Johnson. Would you like to take a look at the new Chicago mayor? Things are definitely going to change. Here's Brandon.
You're not condoning looting.
I'm saying that people are acting out of desperation. We don't want a society that is acting out of desperation, but you have to pay attention to the cries that people have.
So you're not condoning looting.
There's no way to embrace that. What I'm saying is you can't condone the looting that corporations continue to do every single day when they take tax dollars from black, brown, white folks all over the city of Chicago so that they can turn a profit.
Why am I smiling? I'm happy for the people of Chicago. This is what they want. They go vote for it over and over and over and over again. They just voted for it again. So as Chicago turns into Juarez over the next coming years, why would I feel bad? I'm happy. I feel blessed to live in a country where we get the government we deserve. The citizens of Chicago voted for this repeatedly, and now they're going to get it. And so if you know somebody in Chicago who votes Democrat, I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind. The next time they bring up crime for you, oh my gosh, Jesse, you should have seen the mugging here, the shooting here. Geez, Jesse, the cops are quitting. It's really, really important that you don't do the thing we've always done. Just kind of quietly roll your eyes or go away. It's important you look that person right in the eye and say, you voted for this. It's time to start owning it. Now, the good news. We are beginning to win school board races in this nation, and that's blocking and tackling. We won a bunch of them in Wisconsin, of all places, yesterday. 4 million college graduates a year. As long as the communists are getting 4 million reinforcements every year, we are never going to win. But if we change that, and we're beginning to change that, we can see victory. It won't be fast. It won't be sexy. It won't be in 2024. But if we focus on the blocking and tackling of taking back our education system, and we are going to see a different America 50 years from now. I'm not your mommy. It's not my job to powder your butt for you and tell you everything will be okay. I am America's daddy, so I'm about to tell you how it is. they're going to indict Donald Trump. Told you. Nobody who watches this show is surprised. I told you last year this was coming. But why? Why did I see this coming? Why? Well, there are a bunch of whys. And we've talked about this a bunch on the show, so I'm not going to belabor the point. Okay, they're activist communists. The Democratic Party's been taken over by these people now. They don't hold back. They don't care about the Constitution. They care about crushing their enemies and rewarding their friends. Okay, but we got all that. You understand that. I understand that. On a day where the former president of the United States of America was arraigned, we don't need to discuss that. Let's discuss a bigger issue of why. Well, let's do a little analogy here. I'm sitting here doing TV for you right here on I'm Right, and grateful to be here. But I'm not home. So if someone breaks in my home right now and starts beating my wife, he's a bad guy, right? A bad guy. He is. He's a bad guy. It's a bad human being. Bad guy. But when the show ends and I take out my earpiece and I go drive home and I get home and I walk in and the guy's still beating my wife. And he's still beating my wife. And he's still beating my wife. And I'm just walking around the house, say hi to the kids, pet the dog, maybe, hey, anything in the fridge for dinner? And I don't do anything to stop it. Well, now there are two bad guys. Now it's him and it's me. It's time to start asking a serious question, and a question I don't know if we're ready to start asking. Why do these people, Alvin Bragg, all of them, why do these people constantly operate with zero fear of Republicans returning the favor? Why is that? Have you asked yourself that question? Have you pondered that? Okay, I don't expect Alvin Bragg to not be a communist. Right? He is what he is. He's a vicious little rabbit animal communist. I get that. But why does Alvin Bragg have no fear of any Republican backlash at all? I'm talking about legal backlash. We just had the former president of the United States of America, someone who's been impeached twice that are for ridiculous reasons, arraigned for ridiculous reasons. We'll talk to Josh Hammer about that here in a few minutes. Why has not one Republican DA in the United States of America, not one, has brought a major Democrat in on charges? Not one. None? Why? Are we still under the impression that these people fear being called hypocrites? Thanks, Lindsey Graham.
This is the most irresponsible and dangerous decision by a prosecutor in the history of the country. He's opened up Pandora's box against the presidency itself. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden could be prosecuted under this theory if they were on vacation in South Carolina and made a call to China. This is a danger to the presidency. This is turning the rule of law upside down to destroy a man, Donald J. Trump, who the left fears. Do not let them get away with this. Vote. Show up at the ballot box, DonaldJTrump.com. Give the man some money so he can fight.
Go to DonaldJTrump.com and donate? Senator, they don't care about your donations to Donald Trump. They operate without fear and have been operating without fear now for years. We're not dealing with people who are going to be shamed by hypocrisy, who are going to be cowed into submission by online donations to donate to Trump 2024. These people either will fear being arrested in turn, whether the charges are trumped up or not. They will either fear being arrested or they will never stop. The communist only understands fear and pain because the communist is a religious zealot. The communist is not concerned with yet another politician or pundit going on TV and saying things like, Alvin Bragg doesn't prosecute murderers, but he prosecutes Trump. What a hypocrite. You think Alvin Bragg is going to go to sleep tonight after arraigning Donald Trump? And as he lays down says, oh man, I hope no one calls me a hypocrite tomorrow. Gosh. If a couple more people call me a hypocrite, I'll drop the charges. I can't take it. No. Alvin Bragg doesn't care about your accusations of hypocrisy. Alvin Bragg is in this thing to win this thing. And Alvin Bragg is in this thing to win it all the way. All the Democrats are now, because they're all taken over by the communists in this country. And the communists are not going to back off. They're not going to be scared of being called hypocrites. They're not going to change any of their behavior at all until we join in on a mutually assured destruction pact. Our guy gets arrested on trumped up charges. Your guy gets arrested on trumped up charges. If you would like to stop that, because I don't want to live in a banana republic like that, and neither do you. If everyone would like to stop that, then we can stop that. But either we're all living under these rules or nobody is living under these rules. And as we speak right now, not one Republican DA in the United States of America has brought charges against a major Democrat. Not one. Not Hunter, not Joe, not Barack, not a Clinton, not Pelosi. Not one DA in America has announced it. Oh, don't get me wrong. They've all run to TV to complain about hypocrisy. Very hypocritical, guys. No charges. They're after your kids. It's this part is difficult for the right to understand and accept. And let me explain why. We human beings, we have a tendency to do something. It's part of our nature. And this is what it is. We put our values, we take our values, the things we believe, what you think is right, what you think is wrong. We take those values and we tend to put them on other people, the people around us. You think your child's Little League coach shares your values. You think the guy walking down the sidewalk out right now, you think he shares your values. Your waitress shares your values. They believe in right and wrong, and just like you do. And we do this when it comes to the communists and their plans for our children. You are respectful of other people's parenting, even if you disagree with it. If you were at a restaurant and you see a child running around acting up, you may say to yourself or your buddies or your spouse, oh man, someone needs to get that kid in line. But you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to stand up and barge over to that child, scold them, drag them into the bathroom and swat them in the rear end. You're not going to walk up to them and tell them they're grounded for a week for their behavior. You wouldn't even think of it. Why? Because that's someone else's child. It's someone else's responsibility. So you don't think that it's your place. And because we don't think like that, I don't think like that, you don't think like that, we put those values on the communists. But when in reality, the communists' values are your children should belong to him. In fact, he believes your children should be broken away from you, taught to hate you. And he intends to do that. That sounds so evil, doesn't it? So nefarious. And it sounds so evil and nefarious that it's hard for us to accept that our fellow man, our fellow Americans, this is how they think. But it is how they think. It's how they've always thought. I have this book, The Anti-Communist Manifesto, where I break down the different branches of American communism, the history of it, the goals of it, how we fight back against it. By the way, you can get it at jessekellybook.com. And one of my excerpts in there is about the American university system. Quote, education of the nation's youth is the linchpin of the communist efforts. The communists knew he had to adopt the mindset of Joe Biden looking for someone to cuddle with, get them young. If he could do so, he could infect impressionable minds and send them off in the system to do his bidding. This is why they do what they do. And they will oftentimes, because everyone has a cell phone now, everyone's on camera, everyone's speaking on camera at all times, they will on occasion accidentally slip up and come right out and tell you what they believe about your children. Sometimes they even do it during a campaign and it costs them in an election. You remember in Virginia when Terry McAuliffe had this little slip up, this moment of honesty?
I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decisions.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. Good.
They can't help themselves. And look, I can't stand Terry McAuliffe, but I actually applaud him for that moment because he was being honest. That's how they think. They think like that. Those children that you are raising with your values, right and wrong and manners and good and evil, and they look at that. They look at how you raise your children the right way. They look at it like an evil form of child abuse. That's how committed they are. They think they're the good guy coming in to break your children away from you. They talk about it all the time now.
I have a master's degree because when I got certified, I was told I had to have a master's degree to be an Arizona certified teacher. We all have advanced degrees. What do the parents have? Are we vetting the backgrounds of our parents? Are we allowing the parents to choose the curriculum and the books that our children are going to read? I think that it's a mistake. We must remember that the purpose of public education is not to teach only what parents want their children to be taught. It is to teach them what society needs them to be taught.
They're out there telling you it all the time now. These communists today have lost the filter they used to have. They used to be able to hide this. They used to know they had to hide this. When they first infiltrated, I talk about this in the book, by the way, when they first infiltrated America's schools, they would write down, they would talk about, hey, we can't let anyone know what we're doing. Hey, let's keep all this stuff quiet. But now the mask is off and they are there naked. This is, well, we now have trans-affirming high schools.
I teach in an explicitly trans-affirming high school. We have gender support plans. We have a gender-affirming wardrobe at our school. We have binders on demand for our students and other shapewear can easily be ordered. We have students that express themselves in all manner of different ways. And I couldn't be prouder to work at a school that's so amazing. If you would like to have your school also be an explicitly trans-affirming school, let me know. Maybe we can figure something out.
Let me tell you something else we have to adjust our thinking on. You saw that teacher there? We consider teachers, we consider them to be educators, right? People who, even when we disagree with them, they're there for the kids, and they're going into that profession, to do some good. Teach your child algebra. We must understand and accept that many, not all, but many, many, many teachers across the United States of America are actually predators who went into the teaching profession to attack your children and destroy them. They did. And that's hard to accept, isn't it? That's hard to hear. That's hard to accept. And how can teachers get this way? Because they're human beings, right? How do you go from being a normal person, presumably at some point in time in your life, to being that evil freak we just showed you? Well, here's some of the stuff they're learning at the universities you're sending them to.
White people have been like, we're oppressors,
Yes,
arrogant, really confident or certain, defensive, and dumb. Like white people are dumb, right? That's a message. Like white people are dumb. That is a key message right there.
$51,000 a year. That's at Penn State University. It costs $51,000 a year, meaning as we speak, there's a Republican set of parents out there who spent 18 years raising their son, their daughter with love and care and teaching them values, and now they're spending $200,000 to have that communist teach their children to hate themselves, hate their parents, hate their nation, hate everything. We must be aware of how truly evil America's university system is. It's so bad out there. We have to wake up and realize we can no longer take our values and put it on them. I have to be better about this with my own sons, monitoring who I allow around them, who I allow to mentor them. And we don't have our kids in one of these garbage public schools, but no matter what, they're coaches, wherever. We must be more vigilant now because there are simply more predators now who have put themselves in positions to break your child in two. That is an uncomfortable truth, but it's true. You ever get tired? The culture war stuff. And I don't mean tired of fighting it. I hope you're not tired of fighting it, but you ever look around and get a little bit overwhelmed? We have tranny Bud Light out there, so that's the biggest beer company, Anheuser-Busch, gone. And I'm glad we have big names now openly rejecting this stuff. Travis Tritt, Kid Rock announcing they oppose it, but Amazon has tranny commercials. Listen to this list of companies out there. Listen to this. It's crazy. Instacart, Crest Toothpaste, Tampax, Jack Daniels, Ulta, Calvin Klein, Hershey's, Build-A-Bear, Country Music Television, Apple, Google, KitchenAid, Disney, the NHL, Netflix, M&M's, Cartoon Network, Twitch, Freedom, NASCAR, and Nickelodeon. Oh, that's a short list. That's a short list. I could go on and on and on. And so we look around because we want to be better, you want to be better, and I want to be better about putting our money where our morals are. And we should. We should endeavor to be better every single day at that. Not perfect. Don't be too hard on yourself, but we want to be better. And as we try to, all right, I'm not going to shop here. I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to watch this. I'm canceling Disney Plus. As we do these things, I want you to understand these are small, necessary steps. You are doing good things. But you don't feel it all the time, right? The day I canceled Disney Plus. Of course, I had to explain to my sons why they couldn't go watch Captain America movies anymore whenever they wanted. And I explained it to them and they got it. But still, when I hit cancel there on the TV remote, you know what didn't happen? I didn't hear anybody cheering for me. Go, Jesse, you're the best. I didn't have anybody saying, that's good work, Patriot. Way to save your country. Nobody did that. You have to do the things that don't get you any fanfare. So allow me to give you this. We have a lot of these things we need to do, and we need to keep doing them. But we need to do more than abstain spending in these companies, with these companies. We must now, on the right, begin to build our own. We have to build our own completely separate institutions of every kind. That's not a wonderful place to be as a nation, obviously. I don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, but that is where we are. So while we abstain from spending here, doing this, doing that, let us also realize we must build. Because we are not a destructive movement, we are a constructive movement. We build things here. We must build our own and support others who are building our own. We have to have an anti-communist community. We must be a community, loving each other, supporting each other. Small businesses. Shop with small businesses whenever possible. You know the communists hate small businesses, right? They've declared war on small businesses in America, attacked them relentlessly, especially during COVID. Let's all shop small as much as we can. Obviously, there are going to be limits. As much as we can, let's shop local, small, people who share our values. Sound good?